Welcome to another episode of Conversation with Inspiring Soul Seekers within a podcast Soul Embodiment Journey in Business and Life. This is the space for your stories about authenticity, inner healing, and alignment. And each conversation is here to invite you to reconnect with your truth and inspire you to start living without compromising who you really are in your personal life or in your business, just like my today's guest, Tania Rizoski, the founder of Your Sanctuary Space. Tania is not just a former client. She is a courageous soul who left her 28 years career in the corporate world behind to follow what she is really here to do. Now she supports women who are holding it together for everyone else, yet themselves they feel drained, overwhelmed, unseen, and stuck. Through her retreats and leadership coaching grounded in well-being, Tania empowers these women to honor their needs, prevent burnout, and rise as confident leaders they were born to be. Welcome, Tania.
Thank you so much, Renata, and bye to everyone listening.
Before we move into how you help others and how it reflects your human design, let's stay with a corporate world. This is the environment many of us is familiar with. We know that high-pressured, fast-paced environment quite well. I would love to know your own experience, how it was for you working there and where did it lead?
Thank you so much. So for me, when I started my journey in corporate, I didn't really know what I wanted to do as a career, but I ended up falling into personal assistant and executive assistant and made that a career path for myself for close to 17 years. And then I started working with a new CEO who saw something in me and offered me an opportunity to move into a management space. And it was interesting actually because I felt for myself that there was something more for me to do. I just wasn't sure what that was yet. But I remember when I was offered the role to move into management and then general management, I had this quote from Richard Branson in the back of my mind saying something along the lines of, when an opportunity presents itself, even if you don't know how to do it, say yes and figure it out later. So I just couldn't pass that up. And I moved into a management role in membership, which, I knew nothing about. So there was a lot of learning in that space. But I think for me, because I hadn't been ready at that point to leave the executive assistant career, and I still was doing stuff in that space as well. And, hindsight's a wonderful thing. If I'd had my time again, I would have completely moved out of the EA space at that point, because what I ended up doing was, and I don't know how I didn't burn out at that point, to be perfectly honest, but I was learning all this management stuff. I was managing a team while still working with the CEO from a strategic level in the EA space. And it was a lot. I was doing late nights, trying to figure out what managing a team looked like, because I'd only ever had to worry about myself and one other person. So there was a lot in that space, and it is very high pressure. And it was interesting too, because I'd always worked for large organizations, and this particular one, I moved to a not-for-profit. And in my mind, I had thought it's going to be an easier role. There's less people, there's less stuff going on, but it was the complete opposite to that. And there was a lot going on, and you didn't have time to breathe, really. And my kids were still, they were in their teens at that time, so still needed me around, and there was a lot to wrap your head around and not a lot of time for yourself.
Yeah, just listening to you, I feel exhausted. It really feels like you had a lot on your plate. And what was the reason you actually decided to leave?
Well, burnout was the catalyst for me. So when I ended up moving into the general manager role, I recognized, because was planning to still be in corporate at that time, but I'd never
Mm-hmm.
done any university level degrees or any learning at
Mm-hmm.
that level. I recognized that when I left the organization I was at, I would be up against people for roles who did have those qualifications. So I felt I needed to do something at that level. And I started doing my degree mid 2019. Obviously, the pandemic hit in 2020. So there was a lot of extra pressure from that perspective. My mum was also diagnosed with a serious illness 2020. So there was just a lot going on. And mid 2022, when I had finished my degree, I feel like it was probably 6 to 8 weeks later when my body recognized that, okay, she's not doing that stuff anymore, is when it just went, enough. That's enough now. And burnout hit. And that was exhaustion at like a level I had never felt before. It was mentally, physically, emotionally, everything. And that was the catalyst. I had started working with a new mentor at that time in terms of what the corporate space might look like, but she put the idea out there of, have you ever considered a business? And so when we started looking at what that might be, the fact that I was quite organized and I really wanted to create space for women to come together and connect and have some time. So that's how the retreats came about. And it was a side gig because still in 2023, when I launched, I was working in corporate full time. But going on my own healing journey through that time to heal the burnout is what opened my eyes to, hang on a minute, there's something else out there that I was starting to get curious about, but also I was really enjoying. And after I ran a few retreats, I went, I really love this. I love seeing how the ladies felt from when they turned up to when they left. And I thought corporate just wasn't for me anymore. And it was starting to shift. My eyes had awakened to there is another way, and success doesn't need to cost your health.
Your health.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's stay for a while with this corporate environment, because now you said your own experience, but I would like to see from your perspective, through your eyes as a leader, that what you think does not work, not just within the leadership, but related to health and well-being, and how this environment affects their role to lead. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's, there's a couple of things there. One, when you look at people who move into a leadership role, I think there are a lot of people probably similar to me where sometimes it comes out of the blue. Sometimes you're technically so good at what you do, but you've never managed or led a team before. So you really don't know what you don't know. And when you look around at a lot of what's modeled to you in that leadership space, it is that hustle and the go, go, go and do, and extremely competitive. And that's not conducive to you stopping and taking a pause or having a break or looking at what's the best way for me to do something like this. You're just consistently on the go. And, you hear it a lot. And I think through COVID a lot, there are a lot of people who just recognized or burnt out or realized that, hang on a minute, what I've been doing up until this point is just not working for me anymore. And I think too, when people do, going back to when people might initially go into a leadership role, you're not always set up for success. You don't always have a coach or someone within the organization to take you through and set you up for the success in that role. You've got to try and figure it out yourself at the same time. And again, that's where that hustle and the just spinning wheels can take you and not
Yeah.
give you the opportunity to stop.
Yeah, I remember myself in the corporate environment for a while, and it was lots of masculine energy there. You know, all these power games, politics, and instilling fear and lead from that position. Whereas in your human design, one of your purpose is to harmonize that masculine energy with that feminine, because I believe that success or being successful is not just to earn a lot of money and have employees or people to manage, but it's more the holistic approach, but as well leading more from the position of integrity, authenticity, and helping not just yourself but everyone involved to rise, and that way as well the company or the organization. What's your view on it?
Yeah, I agree. You know, when I reflect on my time now, I was
Mm.
100% in the masculine, or 99% in the masculine.
Mm.
And that's what I thought being successful was, to just
Yeah.
do, go from one thing to another to another. And I think a lot of women see that as well and feel that that's what you need to do. And obviously, because there's a lot more men in leadership roles, and that's the space that they're in, we feel that in order to be in that space as well, we need to be like that. But that's not why we're here. And there is a difference between men and women, and we bring something to the table that helps those different perspectives to be brought forward for organizations and in their leadership roles. And what I was seeing was that command and control style of leadership was so heavily ingrained. And unfortunately, a lot of the women felt like they needed to do that too. And the way for me personally that impacted me was when I did move into the leadership roles, I didn't always get the support from the other women that I thought would naturally be there from other female leaders, and it wasn't. And, maybe that was a bit naive from my perspective, but I have to say I found it a little bit disappointing, and particularly when we look at the movement over the last few years of men supporting women in leadership roles. But what about women supporting women? I think we need to lead that space and do things differently and show that there's a way that you can have that balance and it still works, it's still impactful. There's integrity behind it and authenticity, like you mentioned, and you can still get things done. And yeah, there is a lot of politics, office politics still sitting in the background. And I think there's a lot needs to be done in that space, and balancing that feminine and masculine energy around how we do things will make such a massive impact. And I think to what you mentioned before too, for not only for us, but for us, the flow on effect to our staff, because the way you get the best out of people is to empower them. It's not to make them work in fear, to get that discretionary effort from your team, which not only helps the person, but also helps the organization, is to create that space for people to feel safe to bring their insights, bring their thoughts, bring their ideas, and without getting in trouble for it or being made to feel like they're not good enough. Because that's, you get the effort, you get the extra insights, and it benefits the organization.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. I remember when I was writing your report, I always give, based on what's coming up, a name for the archetype of yours. And for you, what came was a guardian of genuine leaders. Can you tell us actually how your work, you as this guardian, someone who is here to help prevent from the harm and protect, how your work can impact the way how people lead and this environment we are talking about?
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. I think with my approach, it's around having that integrative way of doing things. It's not just come and let's do coaching and, there's plenty
Yeah.
of executive and leadership coaches out there. It's around looking at how can we see where you're at the moment. Are there any limiting beliefs that sit behind that may be blocking you from where you want to go? And if you are on the path of burnout, for example, I would love for people to not have to go through what I went through and prevent that. Let's see if we can identify those things to stop you going down that path. So then what you're doing is actually creating change from a grounded space and from a space that's sustainable. It's not a quick fix type of thing. It's something that you can take steps and see the difference and the impact that that's making and sustain it into the future.
And as you are here about providing people with the practical solutions, what are the practical solutions you are giving?
Yeah. So I think I did, as part of my journey, I found mindfulness, and that got myself created such a big shift in the way that I do things. And I think it's an incredible way for my clients to also look at some, what I'm calling micro moments of self-care and a shift in the way that they're doing things to balance out their well-being while also, gaining the success and reaching the goals that they want. So what that might look like, for example, is getting up in the morning and just doing a 5-minute guided meditation. It may be doing a little bit of breath work. It may be doing a little bit of journaling. So what I'm trying to incorporate for them and for them to see is that it doesn't have to be some big thing that they need to take 1 or 2 hours to do. And I think for women in particular, especially when you have younger kids that you're also looking after, you just don't have that time. So it's not realistic to try and create something that's just going to be so overwhelming, because usually they're coming to me because they're already overwhelmed. So it's how can we create some things in their day just to help them have that little bit of space to start their day a different way, but also some tools throughout the day if they feel that they are getting a bit stressed, that they can just implement something relatively quickly, break that pattern that they've been in before, and just shift and don't bring that negative energy throughout the rest of the day.
It's absolutely beautiful what you are saying, because I remember I once worked with a lady. How would I say it? She didn't meet me where I was at, even more overwhelmed, not look at how I function and how I operate. And she suddenly wanted me to change all my routines around when I know I am better in the evening when I exercise and do these things. But she tried to force me to do it in the morning, because you have to do it in the morning. This is the way. All this conditioning, how it should be, for this generalization, how it should be for everyone else. So what you were describing was absolutely beautiful, that you don't want to overwhelm others. You want to really help them where they are and implement these strategies, these practical solutions for them to deal with this overwhelm, but in a subtle way that's going to help them. Absolutely love that, Tanya. Thank you so much. I want to connect with this feminine masculine energy a little bit more, because as I said, one of your purposes is to balance or harmonize that feminine and masculine energy, and you beautifully integrate this coaching with well-being. And for me, coaching is still quite masculine energy. It's about action and go for it in a way. Well-being brings the self-care, nurturing, intuition kind of the energy. You were saying, actually, if you were not go through that burnout, you would not be even open to make a space for this side, or maybe you can call it spiritual, but it does not have to be necessarily spiritual, more kind of self-care.
Yeah, it's completely right. And I think as hard as it was to go through the burnout at the time, I am actually so grateful for that, because it led me down this path that I'm on now, and I wouldn't have found any of what I have found, and to live from this different space where I feel a lot happier and a lot myself, a lot calmer than I was before. And I really try with my clients is to help them see that there is a different way, that they don't have to do things the way they've always known, or I think you've mentioned before around conditioning as well, that they've been conditioned to do. There's success can look different, and it doesn't have to cost you your health in the meantime. It's interesting actually, when I started doing the coaching diplomas that I've done, I had this plan in my head that it was going to be quite rigid initially because of how you're taught to do the coaching, to what you mentioned before.
Yeah.
But once I actually started coaching some clients, and because I had that journey myself of the energy healing and, we'll call it spiritual, it made me stop and go, hang on a minute, there's an intuitive side to this as well. And I want to incorporate that in what I do with my clients, because everyone's different. Everybody's different. Everyone's journey is different. What they've had happen to them in their life is different, which then comes out in the limiting beliefs that they have. So you need to work with the client, like I said before, where they're at, what's coming up for them. Absolutely use the coaching frameworks there to help support that. But it needs to be a bit bespoke. And I think that's where I also love incorporating the energy healing through the Reiki as well, because for some clients, there are just some blocks there that you do need to work with them on. And having a Reiki session during their coaching journey might be what they need at that time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I am glad, in a way, not that you went through a burnout, through the terrible experience, but if we find a goal, it opened you to a level of thinking and perspective. And without it, probably we would not be sitting here even together. So let me ask you, how actually human design helped you within this journey as well?
Yeah. I think the key for me was through my decision making, because again, in that corporate space, I was so in my masculine, and the way I would make decisions was very quick and just do, okay, you get a little bit of information and just make the decisions based off that. But when I found out about my human design and recognized that that's not the best space for me to make decisions from, it's really helped me to allow myself to pause a bit and have that understanding that when you're making decisions, it can be from a high where just something comes up and it really excites you, but that doesn't always mean the right thing for you. Or it can be something that maybe initially when you hear about it, you might be feeling a bit low, or geez, that's going to be a lot of work, and you're really in your head around, whether that's the right thing or not.
Yeah.
But understanding my human design has allowed me to just go, let me just give myself a little bit of space, 24, 48 hours. I'm going to sit with it. I'll see how I felt about it initially, and then see how I feel about it the next day, gather a bit of information, and then make a decision from how it's feeling for me, rather than being completely in my head, because that's not always the best to make your decisions. And I was very in my head person, very practical, logical about how I do things. So it's 100% shifted what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. I just want to make it clear what Tania described is someone who has an emotional authority, but we all are different. Not everyone has it, only 50% of population, which is quite a lot, but there are other strategies as well. Yeah, and you mentioned you were in your head a lot. You were in your head as well around your business, right? I remember the first session when we went through this energetics and decision-making process, when you were telling me about your vision, what you are planning to do, and you talked about Reiki, and I saw this table there, a massage table there. And I felt like, yeah, that's beautiful, but this is not Tanya. When I tune into your energy, it felt like a bit of misalignment. Not that just doing Reiki or healing is anything less, but it just was not you. And even your human design described that your purpose is here in this high pressured, fast environment and help these leaders not being somewhere hidden in the room doing Reiki and how did it make you feel when I was sharing? I remember you were saying that you had a shivers listening today because I'm recording the message for you. Yeah.
I yeah, I did. I did have the shivers. It, it I guess looking back on it now, it did resonate for me. But at that particular time, it was interesting because I'd left corporate at the end of 23. So when we did the report, it was middle of last year. And I was just in this space where I'd realized I don't want to go back to corporate. I don't want to go back to corporate. I don't want to go back to corporate. And so when you mentioned this in the report, that it was that type of space to be in, I was just like, what is going on here? But I had some signs throughout the previous few months where corporate kept coming up. So when it did show up in that report, I was just like, okay, I need to actually sit with this now and look into this. And corporate doesn't have to look like my previous experience.
Yeah.
There's got to be a way for me in this space. But I'm so grateful that it did come up because, like you said, I was definitely, my plan for my business was going down a different route. And I think I may have gotten there in the long run, but I think it's really saved me a lot of time. And it helped me towards the latter half of last year, just stop and re-look at what's my business going to look like for 2025 and what to do in this space. So I am doing things more in line with my human design, not what I had been conditioned to think, the next step might be.
Yeah, and I just want to as well say when someone get a report and all this information, it also does not mean that you have to force yourself to suddenly, again, being in head and follow that, oh my God, now I need to build life around it. It's again more being aware, being open to it. And mainly it is about following your strategies. Your life will get there in a way and being aware of it. When it comes to business, it helps understand how you present yourself as a brand. I remember actually not just your plans for the future, your vision was not in alignment energetically. I felt your previous logo was not expressing who you are at all.
Yeah, no, you're completely right. And
You changed your branding as well.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. And the logo that you had come up with in that report, when I saw it, I remember it was beautiful, and it was definitely a lot more aligned with what came up in that report and what, as I started looking deeper into it and what I now wanted to do, it just felt really right. Felt really right. And I keep getting comments. Actually, I had a comment yesterday about it as well. And yeah, it's fantastic. I love it.
Amazing. What would you say to your clients or potential clients that is the main key for them? Because when we go into that stress and you are here to prevent and protect, not necessarily deal with the people who are already burnt out. So what would you say when we look into stress and first phase is this flight or fight, but little amount that helps you to perform. So stress on this level actually is not bad. But then we have this second phase, which is the restraint. That's when it starts to be harmful because you are in flight or fight for longer period of time. And you just keep restraining and keep going and hold it. And suddenly it's like the branch would break and you burn out. then this exhaustion, third phase exhaustion, is coming into the place, then that's when burnout is. So your clients to that second phase. So what would you tell them is crucial for them make sure they are not going to get into the third phase?
Yeah, I think it's awareness, having the awareness and acknowledgement that this is the path that they're on if they don't start to make changes. And I think you're right, stress is helpful, for us to get certain things done in our lives. It's the amount of time we sit in that stress that's the problem.
Yeah.
And also, is it just at work or is it at home? Is it in all the aspects of your life? Because sometimes, again, if, there's some stress around work, but you can go home and things aren't too bad there, it allows you to balance things a little bit. But if we look at the whole person, what's happening for them as a whole person, is that stress sitting across all aspects of their life, then that's definitely a sign to go, okay, something needs to shift now.
Yeah.
And the awareness piece is the key, I think, and the acknowledgement that this needs to change. Because if you don't do that, then things are going to stay the same, right? So there has to be that from the client initially. And this is not about pointing fingers or anything like that at all. It's just accepting that this is where I am now. This is what's going on. And let's have a look at what we can shift for you sustainably and as small steps to help that change for the future.
Beautiful. Yeah, but you are not offering only coaching sessions, you are doing retreats. Tell us more about your beautiful, nourishing retreats for their soul and well-being.
Yeah, thank you. I love the retreats. So I do 3-day retreats and I also do 1-day. I have to say I particularly love the 3-day because the impact on the women is just, it's incredible. And it gives me shivers when I think about it, because when you see the people who turn up on day 1 in the morning, and I have had some women go, I nearly didn't come. But to even how they feel by the end of that first day, and particularly by the end of the third, like they don't want to go home. They don't want to go home. They've created such a beautiful connection with the other people that are there. But also what I offer during those days is a blend. Again, it's another blend of, you have your yoga, restorative yoga, you have your sound healing baths, which are just absolutely beautiful. There's some meditation, etc. But there's also a creative workshop to allow yourself to be in that feminine space and have a bit of fun and see what comes out. And also an educational workshop, along with some pampering, which I know a lot of women don't take the time out to do. And I really want them to feel special, and some free time, which I think it's important. It's not about packing the whole weekend to go from one thing to another. It's giving them that space to stop. If they want to go off and go for a walk into the beautiful town where, in Kurrajong where we're at, or on the property, or just sit outside and chat to one of the other women, do some journaling, whatever they want to do, they've got the time and space to do that.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, so I love it.
Yeah, and tell me how these retreats affect your clients' life, what they then bring into their day-to-day life and work as well.
Yeah, I think from, some of the feedback that I've had from women, there was one lady in particular who, when she first, when I start the retreat, I'll start it with a welcome circle and we're going around having a chat about what's going on for everyone. And very quickly, even from that early piece, she was the last lady to talk, and she recognized that when she started listing out what was important for her, it was her kids, her work, and then she just stopped herself and she said, no, it's me. I'm important. And actually it gives me shivers when I talk about it now, because that was a massive aha moment for her. So throughout the weekend, she came and said to me a couple of times, "Thank you so much for what you do," because it's really opened my eyes and allowed her, when she came home, to understand that self-care and putting herself first wasn't selfish. It was actually not only helping herself, but also helping those around her, because she could present herself to them differently. And there was another lady who has a business, and she was she'd been caught up in a bit of doing in that business and had stopped looking after herself as well. And she had a massive aha moment during one of the retreats and said, "I need to stop. I need to put a pause on my business, and I need to go and do some healing on myself in order for me to be able to give to the people that I'm supporting in what I do." And that's what she did. And she's reestablished her business again, and she's in just such a better headspace. And even she mentioned with her family, like, she has been able to give more to them because she took the time out to pause and heal herself. So, yeah, it's incredible to be part of.
Amazing. Is it any piece of wisdom for listeners you would like to give?
I think one thing, particularly when I started Your Sanctuary Space, I really wanted to help women understand that they are worthy, that looking after themselves should not be at the bottom of their list. There's so much benefit, like I mentioned, not only to themselves, but that flow-on effect that they're able to show others. And I think particularly for women who have daughters, to show them and model to them that it doesn't have to be this way that we were taught growing up, that there is a different way and you are worthy. And we need to model that. We need to be the ones creating that change for the generations to come. And I would love women to not feel guilty to take the time out for themselves. Yeah.
Thank you. It's beautiful. And where those who really resonated with your words and would like to contact you, where can they find you?
So on social media, particularly Instagram and LinkedIn, I'm quite active on both those platforms, a little bit on Facebook, but otherwise on my website, yoursanctuaryspace.com.au. And please feel free, I'm happy for people to reach out, email me, connect. I do have complimentary clarity calls for the coaching or other stuff that they may be interested in, so happy to help.
And do you work locally or internationally as well?
I am open online, so definitely internationally or nationally throughout Australia as well.
All right. And before we finish, I would like to ask you, what was the biggest thing you gained from working with me and this human design report?
That's a great question. I think the best thing is to show me that where I thought I was working in a space that was me, that wasn't my true self. And there was a much better way to do things that really allowed me to be who I'm here to be authentic and not to feel like I need to show up as somebody else. And I think you also made the experience so easy and just very empowering. Very empowering, because I think you could quite easily, when you initially get the information in the report, as humans, as we do, is tend to look at the things that, maybe you weren't expecting, or you thought, oh, I thought that was a good thing that I do, or way of doing things. But you really allowed me the space to learn and to understand and to answer any questions that I had to make the most out of this. And you still answer my questions now from time to time, and I really valued having someone there who gets it.
Thank you. Thank you. And what would you say to someone who is thinking whether to go for this in-depth information about themselves and their business?
Take the time to do it. You won't regret it, and it's incredible the insights that come out of it. And I think it'll change your life. It really will. And I think particularly if you're a business owner, for example, and you add on that business report, part of the report, it just gives you such a fantastic insight into. So, for example, for me, it was who my ideal clients are, and from a marketing perspective, what keywords I should be using and what I shouldn't. And it saves time, because otherwise, especially when you're me, myself, and I in my business, there's a lot to learn, and you can really end up going down such a path of analysis paralysis and just so much information out there that this just brings it all together with the key stuff that you need to absolutely be aware of, and that's going to make the biggest impact. So definitely, I highly encourage people to look into it and do it.
Thank you. And I'm really proud of where you are going with your business. And it always makes me lots of joy hearing the news and successes that you have on your journey. So thank you, Tania, for today and for your heartfelt conversation. And for those listening, I would like to invite you to check with yourself what this conversation with Tania stirred in you. And if you feel like you are somewhere in that space of restraint and just holding it together, don't hesitate to contact Tania and even just to have a conversation and see what is possible there for you. Thank you again, Tania.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity.